I was dating for at least 15 years, and I had never flown to go out on a date, ever.
So he says to me, would you go to a football game? Thinking, what girl usually wants to go watch sports? Right. I'm like, sure, I've never been to a football game. Why not? He's like, are you serious?
I was like, I definitely want to date this girl. Maybe she would be up to go into a football game while I come out. Hey,
you're in Chicago. That's near Green Bay, my favorite football team.
This was like no pause.
He says that I was the only girl he ever flew in for, but the truth is it was because we were going to a football game. I'm not sure he would have flown in so quickly.
And it ended up being
a 14-hour date.
Like a 14-hour date.
First date. Who has a 14-hour first date?
Yeah.
Nobody. I went out with over 200 guys. So when something's good or feels good, like...
Did you ever get nervous? Like, what if I never meet the right person?
Welcome back to another episode of Stories of Hope. Firstly, a thank you to our SOH family members, our family commentators, our family subscribers, and our family guest promoters. Thank you for helping us continue to yell it from the rooftop, share what needs to be heard, and provide hope to all those in need. Thank you. This week, we have the pleasure of featuring Shiffy and Evan Honigsfeld, all the way in from Florida. Their story highlights that against all odds, as always, even when we have personal doubt, even when we're not sure what the best decision is, even when it feels like things will never, ever work out, God, with his infinite knowledge and loving guidance, always has a plan. For anyone that's struggling in making a decision, in committing to a choice, and having fear and anxiety that maybe in their effort to do the right thing, they're actually doing wrong, this episode will give you so much comfort in remembering that we're not alone, that there's always a plan, and it's all part of this beautiful story of hope. Thank you for watching Stories of Hope.
But first, an important message from our friends at Joma Shop. I was recently in Scotland and London and saw someone with a beautiful watch. I asked them where it was from, and it's from Joma Shop. They have over 1,000 brands carrying over 75,000 products in the fields of accessories, fragrances, jewelry, watches, whatever you want, they have it. They have over 1 million reviews. As a company that's been around since 1999, Joma Shop really has everything you want. When I was in the London airport, I saw a pair of sunglasses I wanted. I always get sunglasses at the airport because then it's duty free. But I checked Joma Shop and it was actually cheaper to purchase them from Joma Shop. So thank you, Joma Shop, for providing the best prices, the best accessories. If you want to make a purchase for you, a loved one, a friend, an anniversary, a birthday, you don't need to waste time looking anywhere else. Go to Joma Shop. I can guarantee you they won't just have what you need, but they'll probably have more. And the best part is if you put down in the discount code SOH120 to receive $120 off your purchase of $3,000 or more. So go to jomashop.com to find the best product for the best price from the best place. Hi, I'm Tzipora Grodko, and this is the Stories of Hope podcast. Shiffy and Evan, all the way in from Florida. We are so grateful to have you here today. Shiffy, I got to know you a little bit through your fans in Chicago. Evan, this is like a first impression. So far, you haven't disappointed. So welcome to our show.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be here.
We're just going to jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your background growing up so that we can get to know you.
So I grew up going to modern Orthodox yeshivas, co-ed, going to co-ed camps. And for me and for my family, that seemed to be the right direction. Although once, after high school, we all go to Israel. Some of us flip out and then we kind of cool off a little bit over the years. And that was my experience growing up.
Okay. Thank you. Shiffy, what about you?
So I grew up more in the Beis Yaakov world. I went to Beis Yaakov my whole life. My mom was more, she grew up but wearing pants till she was 18, more Zioni, Zionistic, Bnei Akiva, and my father's a Baal Tshuva. So we were just very worldly.
Yeah. So even though you grew up very different. The open-mindedness was
Yeah, exactly.
your shared similarity.
Yeah.
And how old were the two of you when you got married?
I was 31.
I was 39.
Yeah.
Okay. I am so excited to hear about that.
Yeah.
And we're actually just going to jump straight in. So let's hear from you, Shiffy, first. You were 31.
Yeah.
You were living in...
I was actually living in Rockaway at the time.
Okay. So start us off with what your dating experience was like, initially when you started, and then kind of what your experience was like as things didn't go the way that you were expecting things to go.
So I told you on the phone a few weeks ago or whatever, last week. The first date I ever went on, I was still 18. I was turning 19 like a week or two later. My mother's friend called us and she's like, I just hung up with your husband. So obviously the excitement and the anxiety of like meeting this guy was like so exciting and nerve-wracking. And I came home so disappointed. Like, she's also my mother's friend. So what does she think of me? And then like this guy, I mean, whatever. He was a nice guy, but it was like, it was really disappointing. Way off. I dated a lot, even though I was from out of town. So I had a lot of guys fly in for me. I flew into New York plenty of times. I went to LA. I went all over the place. But there were times that I came in and I went out with multiple guys at the same time. Like, I went out with one guy, then my friend called me the next day and she's like, was that bad or good? I'm like, not good. She's like, okay, I have somebody else for you tonight. I literally did that a few times.
Right, because when you come from out of town, there's like this pressure of like, I'm here and I want this to work, so I need to try to. Yeah. And that sounds exhausting.
It was. I mean, I really went into like my dating. My family is a very positive family. We have a good time. So I really went into most dates pretty positive. Of course, I came home disappointed and sad numerous times, but I want to say for the most part, like I would go into it like, okay, it was a free coffee. It was a night I wasn't alone.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to make it a good experience as opposed to a depressing experience.
Yeah.
So, and for the most part, I have great stories. I have a really good story I can tell you later. But so yeah, that was my dating experience.
And the whole time from 18 to 31, you were able to maintain that positivity?
Well, I want to say in my mid 20s, I kind of like took a break, not completely from dating, but I slowed down. I was not feeling fulfillment in my dating life. So I focused my life on my work. So I was living at work, morning, evening, day, I would fit in a date here and there, but like it wasn't giving me anything. I was feeling so disappointed. And so I didn't really put any of my energy into it. And then when I realized that like, okay, I'm about to turn like 29, it's time to focus again.
Yeah.
So I put more energy into it.
Yeah. And I find that it's really interesting because when someone's dating, they know they're supposed to be open and be willing, but they're also trying to protect their heart and maintain sanity. So there's this strange balance of not going to think about it as the focus of my life, but it is a huge piece of my life. And throwing ourselves into things we love and enjoy is so important. But I think the challenge is always finding like that balance. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And I want to focus on something you said right when you started talking, which was this lady called you up, the first person you went out with, and said, I met your husband. Would you guys agree like that comment can lead to so much disappointment? Yeah. I met your wife. Oh, my life may be about to change.
Yeah.
I kind of want to welcome the listeners to consider if that's a language they use to be a little bit more sensitive. It's not a novel. It's not a movie.
Yeah.
We don't have to have the theatrics. I have a great idea for you.
Right. Exactly.
Because recovering from, I think my life might change because you've led me there could be really difficult.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, obviously, somebody that knows you may get excited. They have somebody in mind that they think is very, appropriate. But yes, they do have to be careful because you don't want to, build up someone's anticipation, excitement, and then be let down so much that it ruins, it could ruin their dating life for years. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, and I like that because sometimes there's these expectations that well, this is how it is. People will get disappointment. And I agree with you. Maybe people don't have to get so disappointed.
Right.
Maybe we should be a little bit more careful in our pitch, in our delivery, so that we could try to make something difficult and just a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, and just because you thought of someone doesn't mean you need to go out with them. I feel like I went on a lot of dates just because. So that like part of like the pressure of, oh, I met your husband or whatever, like that's in their head. Just go out. Why not? Not for me. I mean, I did it, but yeah.
Yeah. It's when things don't change earlier than anticipated, that why not actually could be like, well, I can tell you why not. I am exhausted. I am tired.
Right.
I went on a date the day before.
Well, I'll tell you, it reminded me of a story of an experience that I had when an old friend of mine from our neighborhood and a shadchan, she lives in Israel, she actually recommended someone for me to go out. This was probably in my late 20s, maybe early 30s. And she actually got my mom involved. She made the recommendation to my mom, who then told me that I should give it a shot. And I looked into it. Didn't seem so appropriate. But, once my mom's involved, then then obviously then I can't say no. Just go out for coffee. It's not much of your time. And so I ended up going out, and it was probably the worst. It was the worst date I think I ever. I mean, I dated for many years, and I remember that one. That one sticks out. And then I felt terrible because like I cut the short a little early, and obviously it's not so menschlich to do that, but like it was so bad that it was like, where did this person come up with this? And then they got upset, and then they wrote an email to my mother. So you want to try to avoid getting your parents involved in your dating life as much as possible.
What I'm hearing from you is if I don't endorse the suggestion, then please don't go and tell my parent because you feel so eager about it. Don't disrespect my decision because you think yours is better.
Right. Well, listen, I love my mom. I love my parents.
Of course.
And they want to know what's going on in your personal life, and you try to keep them up to date, as much as you can. But also you need to have some autonomy and some, want to keep some distance in your dating life.
Yeah. And on that topic, tell us a little bit about the beginning of your dating trajectory and what that was like for you.
Sure. So,
came home as a flip out.
Not completely. I went to Reshit in Israel in Beit Shemesh. And that's when I really first started to learn seriously and take on Judaism, more maturely. And then when I got back, I had a few rebbeim say I should continue learning. A lot of you get advice from certain people, which I'll talk about maybe a little bit later. Who you seek advice from in your dating life and who mentors you is very important. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you actually don't even need a mentor. You should kind of, through experience, you should be able to make these decisions as an adult on your own. Obviously, you want to learn from other people, but you got to be careful who you seek advice from. So after when I started dating, I was actually 24 years old, and I started slowly, and then I think for like 2 or 3 years I dated, and then I kind of took a break for a year. And then I was kind of back and forth, a few months on, a few months off. And most of the dating was set up by shadchanim. Sometimes, but in my head, I always wanted to find my bashert or my future spouse. I wanted to find them more naturally. That was just something that the way I grew up, open-mindedness. It's almost like you want to like just walk into, a wedding or a coffee shop or a bar.
Sounds
that's your
good
thing.
to me. Yeah, I mean, natural sounds nice.
Yeah. Because the whole setting up could be more, there's more pressure in that way. It's not as natural, but I still believe in that process. But anyway, and then I continued to date on and off, and then my social life changed a little bit. I lived on the Upper West Side in my early 30s, and then opened up my mind to just kind of not trying to expand my horizon, not specifically to look at a demographic and puts people in a box. I was like it was a good learning experience living there for just 1.5 years. And then eventually I got to meeting my amazing, wonderful, caring, loving Shiffy. Throw up. But I skipped a little bit. But my dating experience overall was I tried to stay positive, as Shiffy said. always surrounding yourself with positive people, positive friends is probably one of the most important things you can do. If I had to give one bit of advice today to anyone, because there's gonna be dark times, there's gonna be ups and downs, but if you put yourself in a situation where you could come out on top by like surrounding yourself with positive people, then ultimately good things will happen, and you have to have the faith and emunah that comes along with that.
Yeah. That's really valuable. Because as I'm hearing you speak, and I'm hearing your story, and I know Shiffy said she was 31, right? 31, and you said you were 39. 39 is not 31. How were you positive the whole time through the beginning of your dating career till 39? I would imagine that it might be more difficult. That I'm 30 and I have downs. Right. 39 to me sounds like really, really difficult.
Yeah. There were definitely, I won't lie, definitely some times where you kind of almost give up, but it's just, you have to really ingrain in yourself and make your personality that there's no reason to give up. Like, you always have to look, into the future. That's gonna be a brighter future, and that, and I kept going. And also I tried not to pressure myself. Like, for me, enjoying your single life, being able to travel is a positive thing about you find the positives.
She knows.
Yeah.
She travels.
So there's definitely, many positive things about being older and single that you couldn't do. Everyone knows this, that you couldn't do if you got married young and dumb. Although getting married young it could be a beautiful thing. And you grow together, you build a family together. So that is a beautiful thing. But if you're older, there's no shame to being older and single, but you have to make the best of your situation.
Yeah. So how did you have, and then we're going to jump to you in a minute. You said there's no shame to being older and single. I think a lot of people feel a lot of shame.
I think he feels different because he had a lot of friends that were single.
Okay.
I personally did not.
Well, I made sure to surround myself. I would seek out friends that were single.
Right.
So that's
I guess
important.
you can go to singles events and meet people and whatever.
Right.
But.
No, and it is a game changer. Who you are around becomes the reality you live in. So can you speak a little bit about that shame? You said you had a different experience.
So basically all of my friends were married. I surrounded myself with my married friends who kept me like, I have the best friends. I'm sure you do too. But I was living in Rockaway by myself for 2.5 years. And out of the 2.5 years, I spent one Shabbos alone because I was sick.
Wow.
Because I had a standing invitation every Friday night by one friend, every Shabbos day by another friend, unless I chose to sleep out by my other friends. But all of my friends are just such great people. They didn't allow me to be alone. So I surrounded myself on days that I was like working and I felt alone. I would literally crash on one of their couches and just hang out until dinner was over. We ate dinner and then I went home. I felt like I was part of their family. But I did not surround myself with other singles. And so we have a very different
experience. Was that on purpose or it was by circumstance?
I think, honestly, I'm not sure. It's probably by circumstance.
So as long as you have a support system for people that love you and care about you, whether they're married, single.
Right. But I think you didn't feel as much pressure because you were going out with your friends and traveling and doing things. I didn't do that.
Right. Well, listen, there's also the pressures of being a male versus female, being an older single. That's also natural and understanding. So I tried not to, it wasn't always at the forefront of my mind that I'm single and I'm not married and I'm older. I tried to like tune it out a little bit, but also at the back, it's always on the back burner. And like, you kind of, sometimes you worry, like, what is going to be with my life? Like, where's my life going? The purpose of life to me is to build a family, to have children. That's like the reason why we're here, I believe. And teaching your children, to bringing them up with true Torah values, morals. And so there were times that were, you get very, very sad. Like, where is my life going? I'm sure lots of older singles have that feeling. Things helped me, obviously. There were times where I had a job that I wasn't so fond of, kind of held me back from feeling confident. So I think it's important to try to find, if you have the opportunity, try to find something you love doing. And also, it'll give you more confidence so that you love doing it, and also you can support your family, and then it'll hopefully push you. It'll push you, and that did help me, finding something that I love doing. I'm in real estate, and in Florida, I mean, what could be better?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And you know what you're saying, what I'm hearing from you, which is very powerful, is if something isn't working, don't get stuck in it. If something isn't working, if the people you're around isn't working, I think that when someone is single, some of the challenges that come up are that there's so much that's transient. So you can move someplace and it's not the right fit. And you can move someplace and make new friends, and then people get married and move. And it takes a lot of work, and really all of life is like this, but I don't know if all stages provide the same changes that are so constant. It creates there's a lot of work that constantly needs to be invested.
Yeah.
Constantly investing in the right people, constantly investing in the way you're choosing to use your time, in the things that either do or don't fill your life with purpose, because the risk of not taking care of those things is that there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of emptiness, and you're in it all alone. There's no partner to share it with. And it's really cool to hear how both of you were cognizant of that and made active choices to help you get there. And I actually want to hear, from you before we jump into how you met, which I'm so excited to hear about, because I know there's a lot to share.
that's my job to tell that part.
I'm not sure if you want to spend the next few hours.
For friends that are listening, you said that your friends were amazing and became your family. What I heard is that they always reached out. They always extended their invitation to have you for Shabbos. For people that have homes, that sounds like an incredibly important way to be able to support someone that doesn't.
I had no family here. So for me, they were my family. Like a lot of girls will go home to their like you can drive an hour to, we're in for the 5 towns now. So you can drive an hour to Muncie and be with your family. But my parents were like in Chicago. I wasn't flying home every week.
Right.
So they became my family. They took care of me. They loved me, and they didn't have pity on me. Like they didn't make me feel like I was that single person. They made me feel like I was their sister, very different.
Wow. And that's really special. And so I encourage anyone listening to this who has friends that are single to really hear how powerful it is for someone who maybe even they do have family, but there's nothing like friends.
Yeah. I was actually going to say that because we've opened our home to do that same thing. Like we've been married not even 2 years. And I would say 90% of Shabbosim, we've had company.
Wow.
People we don't know, people we do know, people who are just looking for an escape, or single people that are living in Florida that don't have family either or friends. So, that's one piece of advice that I would give. Like, go out of your way, go out of your comfort zone. Even it could be awkward. We've definitely had very awkward meals,
Sure.
But just like dates, like I had awkward, interesting dates. There were experiences, chavayas that you can have in your book for, forever.
Yeah. And that's a big piece, which is you may not like, meaning the hostess may not prefer it, but it doesn't mean it's not equally as important.
Yeah.
My background's psych, so I have to be a little bit of a nerd. Maslow has a hierarchy of needs that man needs. And the first one is a roof over your head, a home. And for the weekend, if someone keeps Shabbos, that's something that they may not have if they live on their own.
Yeah.
More like metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
And also sometimes very literally. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll be right back to our episode. But first, you have to check out Pizza Biza, making fresh hot pizzas on the spot by their professional chefs, indoor or outdoor in their pizza ovens, meat or dairy, plus full catering around the tri-state area and Florida. Specializing in events with several hundred people with no lines. You heard right. Full menu. You have to check them out on Instagram at Pizza Biza and visit them at pizzabiza.com. Best part, mention Meaningful Minute and get $500 off your next event. Pizza's my favorite food, so please invite me. Pizza Biza on Instagram and check them out at pizzabiza.com. say Meaningful Minute, and get $500 off your next event. These are the people you want to call. Pizza Biza, I'll see you at my next event. We'll be right back. But first, a really cool message from our friends at Growtha. If you want help transforming website traffic, becoming #1 at Google, I made a new friend who works at Google who told me what Growtha does is how you want to do it. Growtha does SEO for over 100 healthcare companies, from addiction treatment centers, ABA therapy companies, nursing homes, home care agencies, you name it, they do it. These are the people you want to call if you want to increase the success of your business. It's really just a matter of statistical, technical work. Call Growtha, call our friend Josh, let him know you heard about his exceptional company from us, and receive 10% off when you mention Stories of Hope. You no longer need to spend so much time trying to gain traction in these healthcare industries. All you need to do is schedule a call with Growtha, and they will tell you how you can increase your success with a 10% off discount once you mention Stories of Hope to our friend Josh. So again, if you have a nursing home, assisted living facilities, addiction treatment center, ABA therapy, this is the place you want to go to. Call Growtha, find them in the show notes below, growtha.com, and mention Stories of Hope for 10% off to our friend Josh. All right, let's jump in. Evan?
Yeah, well.
How did we meet? How did you meet
So
Shiffy?
let me just say before we jump in,
Yeah.
Talk about an important concept, idea, where people are reluctant, to date somebody that they may have already dated in their past. If someone brings up a name, someone you dated maybe 2 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever the case may be, some people, it's reasonable to think that, we tried it, I know them, and it didn't work, so there's no reason to try again. But you'll find out that we did date, and then we dated again and then again. And I wasn't always open to dating people I've dated in the past, but I'm lucky that I stayed open-minded, because sometimes if there's somebody that you may have dated and you continue over the maybe months or years, you think about their well-being, like what are they up to? That means that you probably have some level of feelings, you care for that person. So it may be worth pursuing them again, maybe not, but sometimes you don't know. So just a bit of advice, like if people keep a list of people that have dated in the past, you could kind of look through or just think in your mind, who do I still, who do I think about once in a while? Who do I care about that maybe we can try it again if they're still available?
I think it depends also, though, because I've been suggested to several guys multiple times, and I was like, if it came from me, that's one thing. If it came from somebody else, that's another thing. I've gone out with guys multiple times because people pressured me to, because but like it's been a few years, but I didn't like them the first time. So, or it didn't click the first time. So why would I do that? Yeah. Our experience was different because you were the one that wanted to go out again with, and it wasn't somebody else suggesting it.
I agree with that. So obviously it should be coming from you and not like an external somebody, although it can happen that way also, but more likely it'll happen from your your internal feelings of thinking of somebody that you've dated.
And I there's a small nuance that you mentioned, which is so important for listeners to focus on, which is someone you liked and no pressure. If anyone's ever tried to make a sale to you and they tried to pressure you, your instinct is to run. So if you really do think someone's a good idea, and you want to be the shaliach, because you may very well be, let's try to do it without the pressure, with patience, because if they're meant to be, they'll end up together, as I see from your story, and with respect, so that the person can ultimately decide, do I want to give this another suggestion, instead of someone saying, you might be missing your bus share. I have had people say to me, "Oh, you probably missed your bus share already. You should go check who you've dated." And what do you think that does to someone? Well, thank you so much for your words of wisdom. I will go seek a psychiatrist.
Someone came and a shotgun sat down on my couch in my house growing up, and she said, "I missed the boat with you. You're not young and dumb anymore."
Oof.
Well, now that we're getting into this.
Hold on. So I need to tell our story because it really started with me.
No,
but
no. Hold on. I just wanted to make the point when, like I mentioned earlier, about seeking advice and finding a mentor.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's always necessary for these reasons, from my own experience. But listen, everyone has their own, makes their own decisions. But I would, seek advice from shidchanim or rebbeim, people that I trust. And there are times where specifically, a Rebbe gave me really poor advice. So I was dating someone in my late 20s, and most boxes were checked. And the only thing was I was missing that, that magical spark, which honestly, it was kind of naive that shouldn't, obviously you want to have that special feeling, but that's not, if there's other things that are checked, could continue the relationship. Maybe that'll eventually happen, but I did give it time. And he had told me, which is unbelievable if I think about it today, but he had said, you should go for it. You should get married to this girl. And if you don't, he actually said this, if you don't, you're probably going to be single for a very, very long time. So he was actually,
Wow.
So what happened was, obviously we're here today. I didn't get married then. I broke off that relationship. She was a great girl. It just wasn't right for me. And after the fact, I was thinking, like, if I married that girl, I really probably would have been miserable, and it would not have been a good marriage. So he was trying to be helpful, but you should really try to not rely on other people's advice, no matter who they are. Try to learn from your own experiences and build that confidence on your own to make those types of decisions. Do I think about this person? Do I care about this person? Do we have a lot of the same values, aspirations? A lot of the important things, obviously, am I attracted to that person, which is one of the big check boxes. Of course, you have to be attracted to your spouse. I mean, it's so important, but attracted in so many ways, physically, spiritually, so many things. So
I am so glad you mentioned this. It's what I'm hearing from you is because, mentors and guidance, they're invaluable. Also human beings. So also flawed, also limited in what they know. And when it comes to dating, I think because, depending on someone's background, someone might be less experienced, less informed. I think sometimes the responsibility of that decision is given over to a third party, and the person entrusts this decision with that party. And no one can really fully take responsibility for your actions other than you. And so I think if someone is getting guidance and it doesn't feel right, and there's a feeling inside that's like, I don't know, or I don't feel safe, or I don't feel excited, I encourage that person to honor that feeling. It's not, so to speak, disrespectful to tell this mentor or guide, but this is what I'm feeling. They only know what you tell them. So if you don't say, I actually don't feel like I enjoy being around this person, I actually feel very anxious when they call me, and someone gives you advice and it doesn't feel right, take your time to speak to someone else. It's so important. One of the most challenging parts, I think, of my experience in starting this work is that thankfully there's a large audience, and the messages I hate getting are from people who are married or no longer married, who said, I really didn't think this was for me, but I was pressured into it. I was told I wouldn't get better. My spouse doesn't know this. I'm actually carrying our next baby. We're still married, and I don't really like them. The reason why I'm continuing to do this work is because there's so many preventative measures in so many aspects of someone's quality of life, of someone's quality of relationships. And if we're educated and if people are honest, then we can know what to do to be better. So thank you so much for sharing that. Was there something you wanted to share?
Actually, I was suggested to someone right before Evan texted me. Whatever, we'll tell you our story, but Evan had reached out to me a while after we had dated the first time, and I was supposed to go out with somebody else, and I said yes, and then he called me on the phone, and the shadchan, or I really didn't go with a lot of people through shadchan, and it was mostly through friends or people that knew me, but this was my sister's friend who was a shachan. So she called me and she's like, I have this guy for you. So she's like, he's going to call you. And then Evan texted me right after. And I was waiting for this phone call from this other guy. And I texted the shachan, can I call you? So I called her quickly and I'm like, what do I do? This guy that I really liked in the past just reached out to me. And this other guy that you had for me, he's supposed to call me. She's like, you shouldn't go out with the guy that you already went out with because it sounded like it was a really bad idea. It was really bad. He wasn't good to you. So you should forget him and go out with the person that I have for you. And I didn't listen to her. And I spoke to the guy on the phone and I said, I'm really sorry, but something's come up and I'm not going to be able to meet you. And I answered Evan and we're married.
Wow.
I don't even think I knew about this till recently. She told me the story.
Wow, it's a lot to think about, and it's an important conversation. And
by the way, I didn't treat her bad. I didn't treat her bad the first time around.
Well,
yeah,
no, but
anyway.
anyway.
I want to hear about it, but there's so much more to say. We'll pause it there.
Yeah.
I have a really exciting announcement. I would like to welcome you to Live Better Academy, a course designed exclusively for single women who are done waiting, surviving, and feeling stuck with this perceived limited happiness that life seems to have. Now, I want to make something very clear. There are many self-help programs that indicate the following. If you are single, then there must be something wrong with you. This is not one of those programs. I'm not here to fix you because you're not broken. In a world that tells us that fulfillment and success begin with a relationship, Live Better Academy shows you the truth that happiness and purpose aren't on hold. They're actually here right now. Utilizing science and empirical-based evidence, my course is about giving you the practical tools and insights and confidence to create the joy and fulfillment that you deserve on your terms. It's not about searching for what's missing. It's about uncovering the power that you already have to create the life that you want. And what better time to start than now at the beginning of a new Jewish year? So if you've been feeling stuck in negativity or dissatisfaction, this is your chance to start fresh by joining Live Better Academy. And do it soon because it starts in 3 weeks. Register now to secure your limited spot so you can be ready to join on our first day on November 4th by making this new year one of true fulfillment and growth. To see if this course is the right fit for you, you can email me at tziporagrodko@gmail.com or send a quick text to 646-926-2323 for a free 15-minute consultation. Links will be in the show notes below. So join Live Better Academy and start living a life that is thriving and vibrant and uniquely yours, because your best life isn't in the future. It can actually be right here, right now.
So let's jump in. Are we ready to jump in?
Yeah.
In 2018, my sister was having her 5th baby. And the week that she was having that baby, she was also, her husband, now ex-husband, which is for a reason, decided to move her with her 4 children the same week that she was due. So from one community to another. And he was going to move everything by himself. So my older sister sent me and one of my nieces, because my mom's in a wheelchair or was in a wheelchair, so she wasn't able to be like of assistance to my sister. So my older sister sent me and my niece to Israel to help my younger sister move and take care of the kids and unpack and whatever.
Your younger sister was the one with 5 kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
She has 6 kids now.
Yeah. So I went to Israel with my niece, and my sister had a baby on a Thursday. And that Shabbos, one of her neighbors had us over for a meal. Her husband, my sister's ex-husband, with her kids, with me and my niece. We went and ate there. And after Shabbos, she's like, I have a really great idea for you.
Well, I want to say their names because they deserve.
Okay, so
it's
yeah,
Joey and Ariella Herschel.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Joey and Ariella
He's
Herschel.
a Rebbe in Mevaseret. He's a very good
So
friend.
that's how the
back.
idea came about. I was in Israel helping my sister, and because I was there, I went to eat by this neighbor who thought of us for each other.
Wow. And how old were you at this
I
time?
was 28.
28. Okay.
So can I continue? Or you want to?
You can continue.
Okay, so that was in 2018. that was when my friend Joey, or Yosef, he sent me a text message. I think it was after Shabbos. He had met her for lunch at his house. He had sent me a text message right away. I think it was still Shabbos for me in New York. And so after Shabbos for me, I see on WhatsApp text message, I have this amazing girl. She's Tzaddikish. She flew out to Israel to help her sister through, moving their apartment, and she's cleaning and she's doing this and that. And I know that's things that you value, and I really think it's a good idea. And I get these I was getting texts like this pretty, not often, but like often, not so much from friends, more from shakanim. So I was excited that he thought of the idea. But she was from Chicago, I was from New York, and
He had plenty of people to date. He didn't have to come to Chicago.
Okay, yeah, so that's true. Also, I was going between New York and Miami Beach, where I do work a lot.
Mhm.
So we didn't end up. So I didn't end up. We reached. I don't think I reached out to her
For almost a year, I
for
think.
almost a year. So we didn't. So it was already 2019 in September time.
Yeah.
Maybe September time. I finally came around to like looking back at that text message from my friend Joey from a year ago.
What made you think a year later to look back
He
at a
probably
text
reached
message?
out to you or
Maybe
something.
Maybe he reached out to
Okay.
me. I don't remember exactly. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I'll reach out to her, see what she's up to, where she is, and that's what happened. So I reached out, and she's living in Chicago at the time. This was, I think, September.
This was around September, and then
Mhm.
it was all the Yom Tovim.
Right.
So that
So
was,
yeah,
we ended up talking on the phone for a few, like
For a few
probably
weeks.
for a few weeks. Yeah.
yeah, we were talking on the phone. There wasn't really no Zoom. I don't think at that time. I don't think,
There was FaceTime,
but
but
I don't
we
think
were
we
not
didn't do that.
FaceTiming.
It was just talking on the phone. It
Yeah.
was before COVID, and
It
we
was
end.
like one conversation. He's
So
like, "Hey, you're in Chicago. That's near
So-
Green Bay. My favorite football team."
this was like a few weeks into
Packers."
talking. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan for my whole life. A football team in Wisconsin, so it's not far from Chicago. So in my mind, I was like, I definitely want to date this girl, but also maybe she would be up to going to a football game while I come out.
Pause.
Because no pause. Just because I've actually, I think at that point I was dating for at least 15 years, and I had never flown to go out on a date ever.
So he says to me,
Mm.
"Would you go to a football game?" Thinking, what girl usually wants to go watch
Right.
sports? I'm like, "Sure. I've never been to a football game. Why not?" He's like, "Are you serious?"
And knowing that from Chicago, it's actually like a nice road trip. It's like about a 3-hour drive, maybe 3-hour plus.
Mhm.
To,
So it sounds like the idea of flying in wasn't as daunting because in your head you're like, oh, I'll also come in for this game, so I feel more comfortable with this
Well, the
decision.
joke is, he says that I was a only girl he ever flew in for, but the truth is, it was because we were going to a football game. I'm not sure he
Half
would have
true.
flown in so quickly, but
Uh,
it was a really fun,
obviously,
fun time.
I mean, I'm a guy and like I like football, like girls.
yeah.
I wanted to make the most of it, and I thought it would be a cool date, and it ended up being
a 14-hour date,
like a 14-hour date.
first date.
And it started snowing at the game. We went to the game, we drove up, it was snowing, and the Green Bay Packers won, and it ended up being a great date. And then we drove back, had a lot of traffic, had a lot to talk about. So we knew that if we go through a 14-hour date on our first date, things are looking pretty good. We went out the next day in Chicago, and then I flew back to New York, and then
I actually was planning to move out of Chicago the week that we went out. We had talked
before
about
we
it.
before
Of
we
course,
talked.
there's almost
Yeah.
always so much drama.
So he flew in on November 10th. We went to that football game, and I had already planned that November 14th I was moving out of Chicago.
Okay.
I was going to move to my sister for a few months, just to it was my stepping stone out of Chicago to move to New York. I was like not ready to make the leap, but so
Your sister who lives in Montreal.
yeah, so
Okay.
so we went out on Sunday and Monday, and then I drove with my best friend to Montreal, and I was there, and then whatever. We ended up dating.
Good best friend.
Yeah.
So we ended up
The
dating
best.
for a few weeks, maybe close to a month. Shiffy came into New York a couple of times, and it was.
And he didn't.
I didn't
and
fly out again.
That's why
So
we
I
only
wasn't-
dated for a few weeks.
Right.
He wasn't really so
I
serious.
really wasn't at the time. Like my head wasn't. She's such an amazing girl, but like, it just I don't know, I was enjoying single life, and it just wasn't focused on really dating. Even though I was dating, my mind and my head wasn't really into it. I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate. I'm also, because you're dating all the time. It's like, but this one did feel, this particular situation felt more special, and that's why we're married now. But after the
But
fact,
back then it was we dated for a few weeks, and then I just, because he wouldn't come in for me, it felt
Yeah.
like I wasn't worth it. Like I didn't feel good about it. I was like, this is not how I want my dating experience to be. And so I broke up with him, and he's like, well, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And I'm
Right.
like, that's not what you're supposed to say. You're supposed
Yeah.
to chase me.
Yeah. But like he
And-
said, even though you thought you wanted this, maybe you weren't ready for it yet.
right,
yeah.
exactly.
Which,
So-
and in the end, like everything is obviously Minashamayim, because it ended up being COVID. I got stuck living with my sister, which was the best thing in the world for me. And I learned so much. I grew so much in the few months that I lived with her. I lived with her for 9 months.
Wow.
I would have been stuck with my parents in Chicago otherwise. And then, so after, like when COVID started to like kind of like lighten up in July, I actually made the move to Farakaway. So he would randomly text me from like the time we ended it, December through July. Hey,
Like-
what's
right.
up? I'm
like I said before, she would come up in my mind, and I would think how
He-
she's doing. I felt bad. We had a great dating experience, and so I reached out once in a while.
but I didn't feel like he was like looking to pursue anything. I just felt like he was texting, like, I don't know if he was texting other girls the same thing. Like, hey, what's up? I don't know.
No, I wasn't, but I still
But
wasn't.
I didn't know that. I didn't
yeah.
feel that.
Right. Because he was stuck in between, like, I know this was really special, but I'm not ready.
Right.
But like, I don't want to let go. And you were actually really, like, really, you had a lot of like self-respect, and you were very aware. And
Yeah.
you were like, I don't want to get involved in something that isn't set for success.
Exactly. If he
So
wasn't
I feel like
serious.
it's something people should
Yeah.
appreciate.
So I ended up moving to Farakaway, July of 2020.
Yeah. Right.
And like, I don't know the 5 towns. I'm new. I was new there. And so to me, it was just like, the first few weeks I was there, I was like, how big is this place? I'm for sure going to bump into him. And I was there from July till like September time. And I realized I wasn't bumping into him, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to him.
Ah, so he was still on your mind.
He was who has a 14-hour first date?
Yeah.
Nobody. And then it not work out? Like,
Yeah.
that makes no sense. So I reached out to him, and we had a great date. We went out.
Went out again.
And we went out again. And then I didn't hear from him for 3 days. And he's like, oh, it was the weekend. I'm like, that, again, it didn't make me feel like I was special or he was ready, like, to do this again.
And were you ready, or?
I thought I was, but I
Mm.
wasn't. I
Right.
thought I was really being true to myself, and I was trying to pursue it again. And we went out on a Thursday, and then I didn't reach out to her till Sunday, and it made
I was
her
like-
it made her feel, rightly
Yeah.
so, that I wasn't really pursuing it again. So she again broke it off.
and then
and-
randomly he would text me, hey, what's up? I'm like, nope,
Mm.
not again.
So I'm going to
So-
take a pause for a second.
Sure.
Evan, what would you tell the men out there who may be doing this? I have friends, and I have heard this, who it seemed like a really good, it seemed like things were going well. And then the man said no because probably wasn't ready. It's no one's
Right.
fault, but he still wants to date her. He just doesn't want to marry. What would you tell those men who are in a way maybe like not making the best choices for the goal, and especially for the woman who might be like up and down and up, getting all
Right.
emotionally involved? What might you tell those men listening?
Well, like I said before, also it depends on what point, how old you are. I mean, not age doesn't really matter that much, but obviously if you're 25 and you're doing this, or if you're 35 or 40, then
Probably like
it
a
makes
maturity
difference.
level.
Yeah, but I mentioned earlier about building that confidence in yourself, like either by something like having a job that you love and that you're successful in, or whatever other things to build your own confidence helps. Even though it's not really so much related to dating, other parts of your life, surrounding yourself with positive people, other parts of your life do affect your personal life in some shape or form. And so what I would tell these men is, you if it's someone that you care about and that you like, and that, you know, you have to try to get serious. I mean, you don't want to, you shouldn't be always thinking there's somebody else out there. I mean, that shouldn't be your mindset when you're going into dating somebody. Obviously, you're not going to think that going in that this is the one, but like, you want to be open-minded. So you have to really be open-minded and try not to be a guy.
That's a different conversation.
I mean,
that's a different podcast.
Listen, well said. Well said.
It's tough. I mean, I want to give advice, but there are just people that do their thing, and like, but just try, be positive, always stay positive. Try to put your most into every date and every girl, and don't play games.
Don't play games.
Don't play games.
Don't play
Yeah.
games. Should we say it one more time?
Don't be a
don't play games.
Yeah, don't play mind games. It's not right to anyone.
I think he had like this like mind, I don't know, like clarity or however you say that, when he was like about to turn 40. He was 39 and he's like,
sure.
I don't want to be
that
single
did
at
help.
40. So that's when he reached out again.
Yeah, so that's a good point. A bit of advice. Like, try to, in your mind, tell yourself,
Where do you want to see yourself in the
where do you want to
future?
see yourself looking back at the end of your life after 120, looking back, like, where do you want to see yourself? But also more, you know, you should try to put yourself, you should try to create like, not a threshold, but like a or a time, not a timeline. You shouldn't you should put some pressure on yourself. It shouldn't be coming from other people, but it should be on yourself at some point in your life. You have to do that in order to eventually get serious. If you're not a serious person, if you don't think seriously, you have to somehow put some types of pressures, whether you're going to hit the certain age, or more of your friends are getting married and you don't want to be the last one in your group to get married, whatever it
Nieces
is.
and nephews are getting married.
Right, your nieces and nephews are getting
I
married
think
already.
milestones and social changes
milestones is the word I
bring
was looking for.
insight and clarity,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
a lot of reflection.
Yeah.
You know, I think being
Yeah.
at like a nephew or niece's wedding is like, oh wow,
Really
a
tough.
birthday.
Right.
So you had finally texted Shiffy that you were interested.
Well,
He
okay.
had just turned 39.
Okay.
And
So
and he had this clarity that he
When-
doesn't want to be single
what
at
part
40.
what part of
That when I was in Orlando and you were in
Oh,
Miami.
Okay, so there's a lot of hashkacha in this whole thing. So it's very important that this part of the story is really told in detail. You
I
can
don't
cut
know if
out
we have
whatever you
time.
want, but this is very important. So my brother-in-law, Jakey Berman, Rabbi Jakey Berman, he is a Rebbe in TABC, awesome guy, and my friend Joey Herschel, who came in from Israel to recruit for Mevaseret, and one of the stops was TABC. I didn't know this. So my brother-in-law recognized Joey. I don't think they ever met at this point, but he recognized him and he knew he was a good friend of mine. So he went up to him in the hallway. I'm Evan's brother-in-law. I know you guys are good friends, whatever. So Joey said to him, like, what's the deal with Evan? And like, we got to get him married, and all out of love, of course. And my brother-in-law was like, actually, I think he's coming in next week to go out I was in Florida at the time for work.
Mm-hmm.
I was living there for a short period. He's coming in to go on a date, and he's actually looking forward to it. He told us. And so that's that. You keep that in your mind. And then I do come in from Florida. I go on a date. It didn't work. I ended up going on 2 dates with another girl. Neither of them worked. And this was over Super Bowl weekend in
All around football.
February of 22. Actually, the Super Bowl was February 13th of 2022.
That is the most important
The
detail.
most-
How
the
could you
most-
have messed that up?
Yeah. Football seems to be a common thread, a theme throughout.
In your head.
Yeah. So come Super Bowl Sunday, February 13th, the 2 girls I just had dated over the last couple of days, neither of them worked. For the first time, I was actually pretty down. I've been down before, but like I was in my head, I was starting to get very serious about dating, and I was 39 already, and it was coming down to like, what is going, maybe there's something wrong with me. I mean, there was 2 good girls, but I don't remember exactly why neither of them worked, but it just, one of them was way off in the end, and that doesn't matter so much. The point is, come Super Bowl Sunday, and I have a sister who lives in the 5 towns, and my younger sister, who is Jakey Berman's wife, Dahlia, they live in Teaneck. So the plan was to drive my older sister to Dahlia and Jakey for the Super Bowl, and I'm going to go to my friend nearby to watch the Super Bowl. So we drive, and meanwhile, I'm like pretty down, like from what just happened. And so we drive. I drop off my sister at my other sister. I go to my friend, watch the Super Bowl. I go back to my sister to pick her up, to drive her back to the Five Towns. And we're all sitting, I go inside, we're all sitting on the couch. Sorry, I have to go into detail here. So we're sitting on the couch, and they see like I'm a little bit depressed. And they're like, what's going on? I said, I came in, I went on dates, nothing worked. So my brother-in-law jumps up. He's like, I just saw Joey Herschel, your friend, in school last week. He was in recruiting. And he actually mentioned some girl that he set you up with from Chicago. And he's like, what's the deal? It seemed to be such a good idea. They went out, they had a good time. And why don't they maybe see if you could give it another shot? And my brother-in-law didn't call me or tell me about this until I was at his house Sunday night. He goes, what about that girl? Joey brought up that girl from Chicago that he set you up with. So right away, because I had thought about her many times in the past, I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, I'm going to text her right now and see what she's up to.
Wow.
Literally on the spot. Yeah.
Wow.
And as he's saying that, the entire room goes,
no.
Like,
Yeah, so my younger sister Dahlia like jumps across the room and grabs my phone, throws it, and like, you're not playing mind games with this girl. Like, you guys have gone out. I'm not allowing you to do that. I'm like, I really feel something this time. Like, I think about her. She's on my mind a lot. Like, I want to see what she's up to. And she's like, no. And I had already had the phone. I'm like, too bad. Too late. I already texted her. So I had texted her saying, hey, Shiffy, like, what are you up to? Where are you? And like within like 5 or 6 minutes, she responded, hey, I think you're in Far Rockaway.
No, I was in Orlando.
Oh, in Orlando. I'm in Orlando, and like and then we ended up saying, let's talk tomorrow.
He remembers the detail of the date of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so we ended up saying like just a few lines, like, I'm great, nice to hear from you.
I was very hesitant to like do this again, but obviously, like, I dated I went out with over 200 guys. So when something's good or feels good, like, you know, you don't want to knock it so quickly. I mean, it was enough time from the last time we had gone out, that one date, a year and a half earlier, that I was like, you know what? Let's see. What does he want?
And the next day, February 14th, was Valentine's Day. I think, pretty sure. So I remember dates pretty well. We ended up speaking on the phone, and she was in Orlando. I was going back to Miami the next day. And when did we? I don't remember.
He asked me if I was coming to Miami at all, and I was actually planning to go in 2 weeks later to not Miami, but like Boca, near there. I was gonna bring my parents to check out the community, and he's like, "Oh, that's pretty close. I'll come and meet you and come see you." Right.
So she ended up coming to Florida a few weeks later. I drove to Boca from Miami. We went out to a cafe and had a great time.
The rest is history.
And basically the rest is history. We went out. That was in February. We had ups and downs still after that, but, you know, continue to stay positive, and we worked through things. So we had over 2 years of ups and downs and a relationship, and we built a foundation. And then Baruch Hashem, I mean, we eventually got engaged and married and have a beautiful, almost 1-year-old daughter.
Cutie. Oh yeah, she made her debut when I FaceTimed you guys. Yeah.
We wanted to bring her, but we thought,
go redheads.
Yes.
Yeah, strawberry blonde.
Wow.
So that's pretty much our story. And we, like, thank God, I have negative regrets. I mean, most amazing person and my soulmate, or whatever you want to call it. But like, I'm lucky. It takes there's luck. There's definitely luck. And there's emunah, bitachon. You have to have all of it, but you always have to stay positive. That's really the message I want to convey. It's hard, and it gets hard. It definitely gets hard, but you have to
surround yourself with positive people.
Make your personality just a positive person, and good things should and will happen.
Yeah. Shiffy, did you ever get nervous, while dating 200 people? Did you ever get nervous? Like, what if I never meet the right person?
I never put myself in that mindset.
You never let your head go there.
Mm-mm. My mother was a handicapped person her whole life. And she went over every hill. And she taught us, you just never give up. So no.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was really beautiful. I mean, one of the messages that I take from this, aside from the many you shared for the men listening, is, and people might challenge me on this, is Hashem has a plan.
Yeah.
And he loves us. God loves us as if we're his only child. And when you love someone, you will push and guide them towards the thing that you know they need, even if they unknowingly push you away because they don't see what you know. And it's clear that, God was pushing the two of you together, even though the chapter was challenging and painful and confusing. We can't get in his way when we want to do the right thing. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And I think thinking alternatively would only increase, anxiety and pressure and fear. So it's how I choose to feel. And I feel like it's something that's highlighted very much from your story. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for
Pleasure.
having us.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Hopefully it'll help somebody out there.
And what last message would you give to someone listening? It could be a man, it could be a woman. We can hear from both of you who might be an age where they never imagined they'd ever be single. And they're just like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't even think there's someone out there for me. What's something you would say?
Well, I think so that stigma of being single and older, hopefully more, people, there should be less judging of other people. That's my philosophy. So that stigma should hopefully be eradicated, and people should feel comfortable in their own skin. Build again, like I said, build your own confidence, and just keep pushing. There's gonna be ups and downs. It's the same thing in marriage. Everyone knows, and you get that advice once you do get engaged and you get married. Everyone's like, it's gonna be a roller coaster ride for the rest of your life. But that's just the reality. And especially during your dating life, there's gonna be dark times. You just gotta push through it. You gotta really push through it and stay positive.
Don't give
Be
up.
positive. Never give up.
Don't give up. It's worth it in the end.
Yep.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story of hope.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another episode of Stories of Hope. If you like this story, let us know by leaving a comment, subscribing, or shooting us an email at soh@meaningfulminute.org. Your feedback means so much to us. It means so much to me. And if you have a story that you want to share, please reach out and let us know at soh@meaningfulminute.org. We are working so hard to try and target every demographic. And for every no I get, it only pushes me to keep trying harder for yeses. If you want to be a part of this mission, if you want to become a legend and change history, it sounds dramatic, but it's really true. Reach out. Let's jump on a call to see if you're the right person to share your story at soh@meaningfulminute.org. Thank you for being a part of the SOH family.